Hi, YouTube. So, yeah, in my last video, I said something like, I wasn't gonna be posting any more videos for a long time, and like, something like that. And like, yeah, I don't want to post any more videos about like drama. So like things regarding other people in my life. Yeah, I don't want to post shit about that. However, I don't really got much of a support system right now. And I've been going through a shit ton. And life has been really hard. And these videos, I guess, kind of help me to understand my internal world a little bit better and to hear my own voice and to be able to perceive myself when I have a lot of difficulty, I guess, being able to do that under these current circumstances. It's like my perception, it's always getting pulled out of my head. And so it's really hard for me to self-reflect when I'm just like sitting. And meditation's been brutal. It's been brutal. Like I've been trying, but I can kind of do yoga a little bit. Like I can focus hard enough to be able to do some yoga. But yeah, meditation's been really tough. And I'm not trying to, like, yeah, it's just been hard lately. It's wave. But yeah, so today, I love these explanations and justifications and defenses that I feel like I gotta give. But yeah, so today, I wanted to make this video about narcissistic abuse and about the symptoms of it. Because maybe it could be also helpful for anybody else who's going through this or wondering if that's what's up with them. It could be, I hope it does. I hope it, yeah, I don't know, yeah, my mind just got like erased. But yeah, where the fuck am I? Hello? Yeah, symptoms of narcissistic abuse. And hopefully it can be helpful for anyone who's trying to figure out if that's what they're going through, or if they're crazy, or if, yeah, how to recognize it and stuff. Or at least the ways that I have observed, right? I'm not the arbiter of truth. I'm not omniscient. I don't know that much. I really don't know much at all. I barely know anything, but like, yeah, it's a big universe, dude. It's a big universe. It's just my tiny slice of it, but like, yeah. Yeah, sorry, I'm zipping myself back up here. Yeah, okay. So, some of the things that I've noticed. I'm okay with this one going for a little while too, because there's a lot to talk about here, so. Yeah. So, the way that I've experienced it in my life, and I've on and off pretty much for my entire 24 years, which isn't that long, but yeah, for my 24 years on this planet, I've been experiencing like symptoms and the results of what happens when you get abused by a narcissist for a really long time. And so I think I got a pretty alright idea so far. I'm still justifying and explaining and justifying and justifying and justifying. And I don't have to be. I just don't have to be. And so, yeah, the way that I have experienced it, some of the initial symptoms, you're gonna feel like when you first start like experiencing, like when you first enter a narcissistic relationship, let's say. When you first enter a narcissistic relationship, the person who ends up doing the abusing will initially seem very like charming and like they seem very into you. Like they have a bunch of questions. They want to find out shit about you. They seem like they want you to feel like you're their whole world. And so they seem very interested and very like inquisitory and very like what it actually is, what I found anyway, when they do that, when they ask those questions, like the super personal questions, they like to get very, very close very, very quickly. And the super personal questions that they ask usually end up being like something regarding like how to access the keys to your kingdom, basically, the keys to the inside of your body. And they're looking for your vulnerabilities. They might ask you shit like, what's your worst fear? Or what's your deepest insecurity? Trying to seem like they're non-judgmental and like, they just want to find out more about you and all this. And yeah, so they seem very like friendly and very like, yeah, And you won't know what it is. You'll just feel this connection to them. You'll feel like you can't stop thinking about them. You'll feel like, yeah, you won't understand what it is. Like, you won't understand what this connection is based in exactly. Like, you won't be able to pinpoint the thing that connects you at first with them, like the thing that made it click so hard. But before you know it, they become your whole world, and you start essentially like serving the narcissist, essentially. And it's a very slow process. They call it the narcissistic abusive cycle, as I understand it. And in the narcissistic abusive cycle, it goes love bombing, idealization, devaluation, and discard, something like that. So like, yeah, they'll initially give you, and if you ever leave a narcissistic relationship, this is how they get back inside, which I've very recently experienced with one of my exes, who I hadn't even thought about in God knows how long, and I let him back inside, and yeah, I got screwed over in all the kind of wrong ways about it. Yeah, and like, yeah. So essentially how it works, at least how I've experienced it, is when they first come back into your like energetic field or into your life, if it's physically, because once you've been abused by a narcissist, like, it seems like they're always kind of looming latently in your energy as like what they call a flying monkey. And the flying monkeys can have a couple different terms, like especially if it's like a grandiose narcissist who has like a giant group of friends, and that group of friends like is like they're like lackeys, like foot soldiers for that narcissist, and they kind of yes man the narcissist, and they never like think for themselves and shit. That's one definition. I like to also think of it as like the parasite things that like kind of glomp onto you in your energy, even if you're not around them. Like, they can follow you around and go up in your head and take over control and shit. For anybody that knows what I'm talking about with that, like, yeah, it's a thing. Yeah, and yeah, trying to watch that shit. And yeah, and for the record, I'm not judging anybody, because I have borderline personality disorder, so like, I definitely have some narcissistic traits too, but yeah, I try to be self-aware about it. I try to do my best to not like exhibit the traits, to not repress them, but also not to let myself engage in those patterns. And it's not easy, and I'm not perfect, but I'm watching it, I'm paying attention. And so yeah, in the love bombing phase, like I said, they're gonna seem like they have nothing bad to say about you at all. They're gonna seem like they're your best friend. They're gonna seem like they care about you so much. They're gonna seem like they're so interested in your life, and they do anything for you. And then during the idealization phase, like, yeah, it's basically just blowing you up, like putting you on a pedestal, kind of making you feel super special, making you feel like, yeah, making you feel super special to them. And then they'll start to devalue you. So they'll start to like break you down after they've built you up like that and made you feel like it's their responsibility that you've been built up like that, because they fed you all the compliments to build you up and to get you hooked. What happens during the devaluation stage is they basically all the ways in which they built you up in order to get hooked onto your energy, in order to get you dependent on their compliments and their opinions and their perspectives, which they forcefully put inside you in the first place. In order to get you hooked, they do the love bombing and the idealization. And then once you're hooked on them, once you're codependent on their energy, what they do is they begin to devalue you and put you down. So they'll start to insult you. They'll start to say that they made you. They'll start to say that all you are is because of them. They'll start to say that, yeah, and yeah, they'll start to basically try and devour you. They'll try to claim every single bit of your soul, every single bit. And they won't ever be satisfied. They don't stop at any one point. It's a black hole that never gets filled. And yeah. So yeah, They say shit like that they made you, that they own you. They'll start to treat you like you're their property. They'll start to treat you like you're not worth a damn. They'll start to treat you like for example, with some of my previous relationships, I've noticed that what they tend to do during the devaluation stage is while they're around you, they'll just be like looking at their phone all the time. They'll always seem like that they have something more interesting than giving you attention. They'll make you feel like you're the lowest priority possible to them. And you won't understand it because you'll remember the person that was there first. The person that had all this love and affection and idealization and all this shit. You'll remember that, and then you'll see, after, like, during the next phase in the cycle, you'll see them just, like, sitting there on their phone, making you feel like you ain't worth a damn, making you feel like they'll ignore basically everything you're saying, and they'll, like, if you're talking to them about your day or something like that, they'll respond with shit like, yeah, that's cool. You know what I mean? They want you to feel like they do not give a fuck about you. They want you to feel like you're nothing. They want you to feel like you're nothing without them, and they want you to feel like you're like their servant. Like they want you to feel like you're much below them. You have nothing, and you should be grateful for the little breadcrumbs of affection that they do give you when they have the time for you. That's what they want you to feel like. And so that's what keeps you hooked, is those little bits of breadcrumbs during the devaluation stage. That's what keeps you hooked on them. That's what, not just what keeps them hooked on you, but that's what keeps you going back to them for more for a little while. And then, once they have devoured your soul as much as they can, or once you wake up, whichever happens first, usually that'll do it too. Like if you feel like you're essentially dead, like you'll be like, okay, like something has to change, like this ain't, you know? Yeah, that'll do it. And yeah, once you've been sucked dry, once you're an empty well, once you're a fucking used condom, once you're a fucking empty wrapper, a shell, once you've been devoured, then what they do is they don't need you anymore, and you never meant anything to them in the first place, and it was all just a big game. So what they do is they throw you away. They discard you, like the piece of trash that they see you as. And they throw you in the bin. And they don't feel bad about it either. They want you to feel like it's your fault, that everything bad that happened to you is all your fault, that they were a benevolent God and did everything yeah, that's what they act like, bro. Yeah, like they were a benevolent giving God who, you know, did everything they could for you, but you were just too fucking silly and broken and entitled and all that shit. And then they just leave you crying and broken in pieces, a fucking used condom, and then they dip out. And yeah, thank God. And did he take my perception too? Yeah. And after that, if you wise up, the smartest thing to do after the narcissist like devalues you and throws you away, treating you like you're a piece of garbage, and wanting you to feel guilty, like when the narcissist discards you, it's the most pernicious thing. Like they want you to feel like it's your fault, even though they did all of the toxic behavior and all of the devaluing and all of the even when the narcissist did that, they want you to feel like it's you doing it to you, and that you're just so broken. And yeah, it's a really gnarly state to be in. You feel alone, and plus you're like codependent on their energy at that point. So when they do discard you, like you feel like you never wanted to be codependent on their energy in the first place, but like they get you hooked like that. They get you hooked like that during the first 2 stages of the cycle. They get you hooked on it. Like the initial interaction will be invasive, but during the initial interaction, they'll be feeding you like good things, and so it makes you get into it. And if you, no, please do not. And yeah, and it gets you to allow them to do what they're doing, because if you're lonely, like me, then at least you have company, or if you're love starved, then you have somebody to give you love. Like lots of things. But it always turns. It always takes this gnarly dark turn. And never forget, anyone who's in a narcissistic relationship right now, never forget those relationships always have timers on them. They always have timers on them because the duration of the relationship depends on how much soul you got, basically. And it ends once you're dry. Once your well is dry, then they don't give a shit about you anymore. And then they leave. It happens every time. And then what they'll do is they if they ever lose whatever their other source of supply is, you know, because you're basically, they always have multiple sources like that. If they discard you once you're a used up rapper, and they go to their other source of supply, then they might leave you alone for a little while if they're not doing the flying monkey energetic fucking poking through your head shit yet. They might leave you alone for a little while, but you're gonna be in pieces and, you know, destroyed and fucked up and confused and and hurting like crazy if you can feel it all. But if that does happen, if the narcissist discards you, run and don't look back. Run and don't look back, straight up. Like, if the narcissist discards you, that's God saving you. Okay? However, what tends to happen is if that narcissist loses their other source of supply, whichever one that they went to after they discarded you, if that narcissist loses their other sources of supply, or if they're just running low, whatever the fuck, what they'll do is they will try and hoover you back into their claws, into their web, into their hands, into their puppet strings. And hey pup, I'm making a YouTube video, dude.
What's that?
I'm making a YouTube video.
Oh, cool. I don't know how to make it.
You just press record on your phone, and then you upload it basically on a camera app.
It's more technical than I want to be.
Understandable.
Love you.
Love you too.
Do you need any food or anything?
No, I'm all good on that. Appreciate you.
Okay.
Love you too. Sorry, I got triggered as fuck. Gotta get back in my body here. And so anyway, I forget whatever the hell I was talking about. My mind got erased and shit. But like, what they'll do is they'll try and hoover you back in, I think is where I'm at, if they lose other sources of supply. And when they hoover you back in, it's the same cycle as before. They're gonna come back into your life in some way, either energetically through your noggin, or through a phone. Like they might text you or call you or reach out in some way like that. Dude, I'm all fucked up now. Alright. And but don't fall for it. If you remember them during the devaluation stage and during the discard phase, that's who they really are. That's who the narcissist really is. The one that they showed, the person that you see that's like constantly insulting you, couldn't give the slightest shit about you, couldn't give you the time of day. You know what I mean? That's the real one. The one that's there giving you the love bombing and giving you the, you're the best thing since sliced bread treatment. That's a character. It's a character. It's a mask that they put on to get their supply needs met. And don't believe that one. If you remember the pain that they caused you during the discard and the devaluation, remember that pain. It will save you. Don't ever fall for the Hoover. Don't ever fall for them coming back in your life and trying to act like they're your friend, and trying to act like they ain't your friend. And it hurts to hear that, especially if the only people you have in your life are people like this. It hurts, but don't be fooled. Don't be fooled. I was gonna talk about symptoms. It ended up being more about the cycle, I guess. But symptoms-wise, like, yeah, I mean, like, every bit of your energetic body is going to be flying all the way the fuck around. Your axis might be dropping out of your body all the time. Your root chakra is going to get blown open. Your crown is going to get blown open. It's going to be hard to think, hear, listen, be present. You're going to be hunched over like this all the time. You're going to be unable to sit still. You're going to be constantly getting intrusive thoughts and constantly getting, like, yeah, the needle thing getting poked in through your head, and your boundaries getting broken down, and you're going to be getting toyed with for a long fucking time until you can build up your energy again, and until you can start to do things for yourself without needing, like, the eyes of the narcissist, like needing their approval or needing anything like that. Once you can completely detach from them and, like, go no contact and become indifferent to them, so, like, you're not hurt about it anymore, you don't care about them anymore, you don't miss them, you don't want them back, you're not still limerent, you're not still, like, you know, longing, you're not still, like, bitter or resentful, any emotion at all. It's like once you can reach the pinnacle of indifference towards the narcissist, then they're not going to have their food source, which is your soul or emotion. That's how they eat. Once they've devalued you, if they still have you in their clutches in some way, the way that they can eat off of you still is by making you feel like garbage. Just making you feel however they want you to feel. It makes them feel powerful. It makes them feel powerful. And so they'll insult you, they'll put you down, literally. They will come into your body and crumple you down. And you go down, down, down. That's what I've experienced anyway, happening to me. And yeah. And it's nasty. And I've talked before about the little snot ball effect thing that happens with your nose. How the mental digs that they put at you once they're in your head, little mental digs, will shove your face down into your stomach, and you'll see like a dip right in the person's face. It's like a needle that it like punches right into your fucking face, and I hate it so much. And yeah, it literally sucks your soul out of your body. Whatever soul means to you, the viewer, whatever that means to you, however you understand it. Like for me, I understand it from like a yogic perspective and shit, with like Eastern tradition and stuff like that. So that's kind of how I see it. But whatever soul means to you, yeah, they essentially siphon it out of your body. You'll find yourself with cold hands and cold feet, no heat, no energy. You won't feel like you're gonna be able to do anything. Call this a narcissistic fog. They'll fill you up with gaslighting, like what's happening in my stomach right now. They'll fill you up with gaslighting, and your memory will be foggy. You're gonna feel like shit about yourself after the relationship is done, because they're gonna have been, they will have been putting you down so much that, like, your sense of autonomy, your sense of, like, you know, go get it, dude, and like I could do it and all this. Your sense of being able to actually make changes in your own life and like do things for yourself without their permission and shit, it's gonna be very hard at first. It's gonna be very hard. But eventually, at least how I've seen with me, what you decide is like eventually you'll decide, even though they'll have convinced you that you're the world's biggest piece of shit, that you have nothing good to offer, and that you're a used condom essentially, or a bad object, or whatever it might be. At some point, you gotta decide, even if you feel like you're the worst piece of shit ever because of the treatment and the lack of soul after the sucking away, you have to decide that you're worth it still, and that you're worth saving, and that you're worth rescuing from that abyss, and that you're still worth it even if you feel like you're dead. Even if you feel like you're dead and ice cold, if you feel like life is over, if you feel like life is meaningless, and that like all your memories are gone, and that you're on an island, and that there's no future, and that nothing can ever change, they can. And it happens faster than you would believe too. Once you make that mental shift to start just doing it for yourself, to start living your own life, and to start like putting the work into detaching from the relationship, into healing, and to rebuilding your life, and to getting your soul put back together, and to love yourself properly, and to treat yourself properly. Once you can make that mental shift, and you start doing the actions, I'm getting my perspective back in my head, doing the actions, that you know are good for you, like working out, especially when it comes to narcissistic abuse, like once they've latched onto you, the darkness descending or whatever the fuck, things like jumping jacks, physical activity, running, hikes, being in nature, these are unbelievably helpful for shaking those things off and for getting the energy in your body moving again. because it'll get all stuffed down and plugged up from their tendrils and their fucking, yeah, from the needle that expands and shit. Yeah. And yeah, like yeah, if I were to draw a diagram to, like, if we have a human head right here, it's a very vaguely drawn human head, and we got a body, torso, and two leggies. This is a very terribly drawn person. This is my person that I drew. Essentially, here's the parts that they go for first. So we have this thing in the back of the head. There's like imagine if this person's see-through. There's like a triangle in the back of the head right there, called the atlas. At the tip of this triangle is the hole to your third eye, and then these two are the two yin and yang eyes, these guys, and it correlates directly with this triangle right here, and it goes with like this Father, Son, Holy Spirit type. And there's an axis that you have running up your middle, hold your torso up, and then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 main chakras. And then we have like an emotional aura, or an emotional shield, or your emotional layer, whatever you want to say. Okay? And so what they do is first they have to break down your emotional shield. And so they do that by insulting you, belittling you, putting you down, telling you that they made you and that they own you and all this shit, and controlling you and making you feel like you're subhuman. They do those things to break through your emotional shield. And then what they do, once they've broken through your emotional shield, is they penetrate through this axis with this little needle, which will feed you intrusive thoughts. And this needle that feeds you intrusive thoughts will essentially begin to pop open the entirety of that atlas to break your boundaries down, that door. And once they've done that, if they can't get through the atlas, they'll punch your face in, like I was saying earlier, which goes in through the nose. And they have to break your spirit, which is, there's a vent right behind the nose. It's the one that spirit uses when you're inside your body and not out of the atlas, if you have your boundaries up. It's this vent that's right behind the nose that leads straight into the void if you breathe. You'll notice that there's like holes there that don't go to your lungs, and they go into the void. And that's where spirit and the self is. And they essentially load that void up with intrusive thoughts, and it causes it, the weight of that emotion will weigh your spirit down into your stomach, and it'll make it so that they can essentially enter in through your face and begin to pull you through, which I don't want. And as they do that, it's going to feel terrible. It's obviously extremely painful. When you can still feel painfully, but you get desensitized very quickly when your entire soul is getting decimated. That's how you feel. So like, yeah, it's like fire. It's like fire on every single cell. And yeah, it hurts really bad. And so yeah, eventually you get desensitized to this if it goes on for long enough, and if you've been run through so many times, like you can't even feel anymore and shit. And yeah, so they get into your head in some kind of way. Somehow they find a way to get into your head. And once they've gotten into your head, the way that we exert willpower, there's like a little like squeezer thing at the top of your kundalini path, right at the where the third eye part of the atlas is in the back of your head. So like if you're looking at my face right here, it's directly there on the back of your head. If you were to make a line, it's like a little soft spot right before the like dome of your skull, directly under that. Yeah, once they get inside of your head, oh yeah, the willpower thing is what I was going to talk about. That's the center for willpower, and they'll essentially overwrite your will. They'll fill it up with fog so that your consciousness can't really see what's going on back there, and they will overwrite your willpower and essentially slide into your body, and they'll get behind you, and it'll become a false self. So like that's where the real self is, the void behind you. They will fill that space, and they will start to breathe your air and to take all of your life from you from inside of your own body. I've experienced this happening. And yes. And yeah, once they've overwritten your will, they'll essentially like open you all the way up. And then bit by bit, Did I drop the throat? Root, sacral, plexus, root, sacral, plexus, heart, throat. Yeah, it's just shifted down a little bit. Yeah, they'll pinch your throat. I've noticed once they have your willpower. See that? Yeah, they will pinch your throat shut. They'll choke you, and what this does is it increases your blood pressure. It makes you anxious. It makes you scared, which destabilizes you and gets you ungrounded. And it also gets it so that you get lightheaded and dizzy and essentially like spiritually pass out. On a soul level, they squeeze your neck until you essentially pass out. And then they take control, which we don't want. And yes. And once they've done that, bit by bit, they will take out each chakra. They'll begin gnawing away at it. And once they've devoured all of your chakras, or if they've blown open your root, it'll pull your axis out from you. And it'll make it so that you can't hold yourself up anymore. You'll become like jelly. And yeah, they can go in through the top or the bottom. But yeah, they do this all the way until your core, which lies in the center of your plexus. And this core is the center of your whole body. Your whole energetic body is like a fractal, which emerges from that core. So like a fractal is the same pattern. It's like a snowflake. It has an initial pattern, or if it's like a triangle fractal, that repeats itself like a cell dividing over and over and over again to make a pattern. But what makes it a fractal is whatever instance of it, of the like level of fractalization is, so whatever order of magnitude, the image will be the same as the initial point. So like an atom versus the solar system, you know, it's the same like setup kind of. It's a fractal. Or like a cell versus the whole universe, or you know, etc. The spark on our insides versus like, yeah. And so yeah, the core that's in our plexus is the seed to the fractal of our being. And they will, that's their prize. That's their main prize, is they want that core. And once they've eaten your core, you disintegrate into bits. You're ice cold. You have no self-will whatsoever. You're jelly, and you're like, you will feel that initial needle that broke your boundaries down. It'll like grow and like go into your arms and legs and shit. And it'll begin puppeting you completely. And before you know it, you'll feel like you're not even a thing anymore. You've been dissolved and diluted so completely and totally and utterly that you won't even feel like a singular soul anymore. You'll feel like a bunch of dispersed bits or just dispersed energy. And they will take control of your body. And begin to like live your life through you. And like, yeah. And it's horrifying watching this. Like from an observer standpoint, whenever this happens to me, and it happens all the fucking time, it's horrifying to watch this because they make you do a bunch of fucking, yeah, nasty shit. Stuff that serves them and doesn't serve you. And yeah. And you'll be able to feel this, like you'll feel like another thing, like if your back, like your skin layer on your back, you'll feel another thing, like in between your front, the skin on your back, and like it's hard to describe. It's literally like another thing slotted in there. And you'll feel like the shit up in your arms, and yeah, it feels like there's too much on your insides, but nothing good. Like it's just a bunch of pointy sticks basically, and no energy movement. Yeah, and like emotionally, you're gonna be it's profoundly damaging. Doing this to a person is profoundly damaging. Because once all of your chakras have been drained or sucked out or whatever it might be, swapped around, fucking eaten, devoured essentially. And once your core has been pulled out, you feel like borderline suicidal, you feel like dead, you feel empty, you feel like you're on an island. So like there's no future, there's no past, you have no memories, you're not a person, you feel like you're not conscious, you'll feel like, you know how like when you have your perception and when you're conscious, All of your senses will be feeding back to one point, like it's one person, and there's one life in you. And like your hearing and sight and touch and smell are being experienced by a singular point inside of your head. That won't be there. And like you'll have senses, but they won't be coherently understood as one unit. And the whole body will become like this. And so each component won't be able to communicate effectively with each other component, and the organization of the organism of the body will be non-existent. Breathing will be difficult. Speaking, singing, moving becomes extremely difficult, especially if you're always fighting for your own self-will. If you're fighting for your own self-will constantly, like getting yourself to get up and do anything at all is like going to war. Straight up, it's like going to war. It's something that's usually just like a willpower thing. Like, oh, but I don't wanna. You know you should, but I don't wanna. It'll literally feel like you'll feel ice cold without life in you, with no chi, and you'll feel like there's something that's holding the controller of your body that you have to essentially wrestle off of you. Just to get up and do your laundry or some shit. Just to live life. And the whole time while they're in you like that, they will be shaming you for not doing anything. For being nothing and being nobody and being worthless. They continue to put you down emotionally while they're controlling your body, and like, yeah. It's unbelievably pernicious because that's what they get off on. They get off on control. They think it's like justifiable or good, or like they enjoy controlling other living things. It's disgusting. Sometimes, I don't know if all of them are like this, but like they drink your suffering. When they see you suffer, they laugh and they like enjoy it. It makes them happy. These people that pretend to love you, they drink your suffering. It gives them life. The suffering of another living thing. It's hard for people who aren't like this. It's hard to fucking imagine. But yeah, some people be like this. I can't judge because they're humans too, and like every niche in nature is, you know. It's really quite interesting. Like this phenomenon happens in nature too. It's not just a human thing. Like in parasitism in nature, there's this one type of like worm parasite. I forget what it's called, but there's one type of worm parasite that will like get inside the brains of praying mantises and eat their head, just like how, or it might even be the bodies of praying mantises after the females have eaten their heads off. Not sure, but regardless, they call it, no, they make the head fall off of the mantis, if I'm remembering in the video. I only watched one video about this, but I couldn't believe the parallels I was seeing, so it's like it's stuck with me forever. But yeah, they essentially eat the head off of the praying mantis, and then they take over control of the body of the mantis, just like how. And what they do is they make the mantis move with no head they bring it back to a body of water. Because there's a lake right there. Yeah, they bring it back to a body of water and make it go into the body of water where the eggs inside will then hatch. And you'll see this dead floating praying mantis with all these worms emerging out of it, fucking swimming around, and then they go back to the sea and shit. It is the same fucking phenomenon, especially with like the vacant look. If you ever see somebody going under narcissistic abuse, they'll be like vacant, and their head will be like, yeah, because they're getting controlled. It is the same fucking phenomenon, dog. It's the same fucking niche getting filled. Nature has its patterns. But yeah, shit is pernicious. And if you're somebody who doesn't feel like you're a narcissist, but you're constantly getting told by some self-critical voice in your head that you are, you're not. You're getting controlled by one. And what they're doing is they're dumping all of their shit into you. And in order to be able to do that, you have to essentially accept it in as part of yourself. And so during that emotional breaking down that I was talking about with the energetic body, yeah, if they have those, if you're constantly in your head getting told this, even though you feel like it's not you, and even though you feel like it can't be true, and it's like you don't understand, like, yeah. Real narcissists don't worry about being narcissists. They're quite proud of it. They feel strong and big because they can make another living thing suffer. So their internal world's gonna look quite differently than if you're worried about it, and if you're stressed about it, and if you like don't want to be one, and like you're not. Just rest assured, viewer, person who might be seeing this, if that's you, you're not the narcissist. You're getting abused by one. If you're super confused and lost in fog, and you're not confused, you're just abused. Just so that's said. Yeah. What they want, they want to feed all of their emotional shame and all of their crap into you. They want to eat your soul, take it for themselves, and then leave you with their crap. And they can speak through your face and they'll make you seem like you. Yeah. So if that's happening to you, and if you're constantly getting hijacked and you're constantly getting fed all this negative shit, and if you always feel like you're drained and cold, and you're not the narcissist. You're being abused by one. And whatever those voices in your head are that are telling you that, the best thing to do is to not give them what they want. What they want is for you to be broken down. What they want is for you to be empty. What they want is for you to feel like the worst human being on earth. The best revenge, the best way to handle it, the best way is to ignore them. Ignore them and live your best life. Say, screw you to that fucking voice. Take your life back. Live your best life without them. It'll drive them crazy. So yeah, if anybody's going through this, Namasté, I'm with you. You're not alone. Never forget that, you're never alone. You're gonna feel unbelievably alone when you go through something like this. I know I have, at least. But you're not alone. God is real. All things are connected. We are a whole planet. All things are one. And even if you might feel completely alone, even if you might feel like you have no support and like you're the biggest piece of shit ever because you're getting abused constantly and you're always in pain and you can't do anything you want to do and all this, it will get better. It will get better. The best way forward is to say, screw you to that narcissist. Disconnect from them. Don't listen to the voices that play through your head, the self-critical ones. Try and only listen to the voice of love. And the best way, like, this is a bit of a specific tip, but if you've been loaded up with all of their crap on your insides, it's not gonna feel like you, like the you that you used to know and love. It's not gonna feel like you anymore. But treat yourself when you're in that state as if you're taking care of like a friend, like somebody else. It allows you to keep your patience up. It allows you to keep like kind of an emotionally detached standpoint when you're making decisions going forward. If you treat it like, remember the golden rule, essentially. Treat others as if how you would treat yourself and shit. You're gonna feel like a different human being on the inside for a little while, but continue to treat yourself as if you're taking care of like a friend, and before you know it, you'll have you back again. Before you know it, you'll have you back again. And it's gonna feel better than anything. And I know that feeling, man. It's always something like, whenever my soul comes back after one of these, it's always like I thought she was dead, you know? And then you see that it ain't. And then you see that none of it was gone, and you get your memory back, and you get your self-will and your emotions back and shit. And you can laugh again, and it comes back. It comes back, but you just gotta take those steps to disconnect from the people who are hurting you and to live your own life anyway, and to love yourself anyway. And even if you feel like nobody else in the world loves you, you making that decision to love yourself anyway goes miles and miles and miles. Yeah, that's what I would say. Anyone who's going through this, just namaste. You're not alone. You're not alone. You're not crazy. You're not crazy. You're not a bad object. You're a human being with thoughts, feelings, emotions, autonomy. And the shackles that we wear are not physical chains. They're mental. And you're only as locked down by them as they can convince you to believe that you are. You never actually are locked down by them. Remember that. Remember that. The shackles that we wear are not physical chains. Namaste, y'all. Hope that could be helpful. I feel like I released some latent emotion a little bit. I feel a little bit better, I guess. So, wishing that for anybody who might come across this as well. May all of our hearts be blessed. May us all be warm and well fed. May us all be reconnected with ourselves and with our souls. Love. See y'all next time.